Hi there, Cindy here from the Post and Rail, and I'm in the veggie garden this morning, and I really want to show you guys how purple sprouting broccoli grows and the parts that you can eat maybe that you didn't know about, and some of the tricks to keeping it going for a long time. So this is purple sprouting broccoli, and I've planted this in early autumn, and now that it's the other side of spring, it's decided to go gangbusters. I've totally not been able to come out in the last week because it's been raining so much here, and things have gone to flower. Now, a lot of people think that this isn't the point that you can eat it, but it is, and I'll show you how giving this plant is. I'll harvest what the parts of the plant that I'm going to eat that I think are delicious. Now, here's the thing. This whole stem is edible. Now, the bit that it snaps is the bit that's still tender and delicious, and all those flowers taste good. They actually cook, these purple sprouts actually cook to green. So if you want to keep them purple, you have to eat them raw. But often you can just tell the part of the plant that is going to be delicious and edible. And so all of that is edible, stem and everything. So I'm just going to harvest away here until I collect it all up. Now this is sort of the prime, this is the sort of bunch you would find to purchase at a shop when it looks like that, and they bundle it up. And that's totally fine, but also don't think that this part isn't edible. This bit is still delicious. So that's the good part, and you can cut down into the plant. A lot of you might not know that this is a cut and come again vegetable, and what that means is I've cut this numerous times already, and it just keeps going and going. And sometimes with also normal broccoli as well as purple sprouting broccoli, but sometimes you can pick up to 11 times a regrow. It regrows till the plant's like really woody, old and looking gnarly, and also it's time to plant something else and you want to kind of kick it out of its place. But until then, I'd love to just show you the stem that I've cut earlier, if you want to come in here. And so I've cut there, I've cut there, I've cut there, I've cut there, and it's like regrown again, and that's part of the beauty of this plant, whereas you don't just plant it once, pick it once, and then it's all over. You're actually picking it again and again and again. And I find that to be just wonderful. So I'm just going to harvest the rest of these because I've got a really cool idea for a broccoli gratin with preserved lemon crust on top. So I'm going to get to this part and then go in and cook. How exciting. The other thing too, if you get stuck for cabbage leaves or you're making a kimchi and you need some more foliage, this is all completely edible. This is the cabbage family, and so all of these leaves are an edible green. So you can totally, that's nearly like, you can tell how much like kale that looks, and it has a similar flavour. So you don't have to waste it at all. Look at that stem. We've just picked broccoli from the garden, lots of long-stemmed purple sprouting broccoli, and we're going to make broccoli gratin with broccoli, spring onion, garlic in a creamy kind of bechamel type sauce. Top it with sourdough breadcrumbs that's going to have preserved lemon blitzed through it. And I think this is a wonderful way to highlight the many different ways that you can use preserved lemon, because I think it's a bit confusing for everyone, and everyone just thinks, oh, it's Moroccan and nothing else. So come over to the pan. I love a pan that has dual use, and this has got really hot. I'm going to put in some olive oil. So I like to add spring onions as well because they were growing out there at the same time, but you could use any type of onion. I'm not onionist at all, so any onion works well. And in case you don't know this trick of how to cut through a long vegetable, like a big long stems of celery or spring onion, I usually make a cut in the middle, bring it all together so that you're cutting again. And because I'm good at chopping, I can cut that again, make it an even bigger bunch with a very small amount of chopping. Rather than run out of chopping board. And that's going to go in as well. Look at that colour. So I like to zest garlic straight into the pan, and the good news about garlic, in case you didn't know this trick, is that if you just grab a clove of garlic and hold at the root end, you don't have to peel it. You literally hold your zester or your microplane over the pan so it's sturdy, and then you rasp it back and forth, and you can see that the skin doesn't go through. Your hands don't stink of garlic, and then you can give a little tap and it dispenses the garlic. Really great if you need multiple cloves in a hurry. This saves you peeling them, saves you chopping them. I mean, they're fiddly. And then your hands don't stink. So the other thing is I don't put garlic in at the start, because if you put it in at the start it can burn. Whereas if you put it in now and nearly all the sauteing is done, the flavour of the garlic doesn't get to burn. And that is smelling so good. So when it's this beautiful colour of vibrant green, and I can feel that some of the vegetables are starting to get tender, so about 3 or 4 minutes of cooking really. My next two things that I like to add to any gratin, and rather than making a roux and a white sauce separately, and that's using all the dishes, this is my simple version of how I do it. And I put in some Vegeta stock, and it's about a teaspoon, and you saw that that was exactly 1 teaspoon just there. And I'm just going to stir that through. Now that takes care of the salt, the seasoning and the flavour. And then all I have to do is add some cream. Now I was going to pour this in a fancy container, and then I thought that's an extra dish, and I know you're going to appreciate the one less dish version. So I'm just going to tip in some cream. Now how much cream? I just know you're going to ask me that. I feel like that was about half a cup, and I just want to stir it through. Now I don't like it uber rich, so I'm going to stir some of this through, and then potentially, depending on how much juice that gives me, which isn't enough, I'm going to add some water. This saves me making a bechamel. Get back in there. So that's just given me like a creamy little base and some stock powder. Now I'm going to get some water, and I want to just pour enough in that you can just see it comes up to just below the vegetable line. So if I push it down, it comes to the surface, and I'm going to let that bubble and nearly cook away for the next few minutes while I make the topping. Also, it should note that I'm going to put on the oven to preheat at the moment too. What temperature? Like 200, because I want it to cook today and not tomorrow. So that's that step done. This has taken about like 5 or 6 minutes from start to finish. And this is also customizable. Feel free to put your cauliflower in here, any of your broccoli type things, anything from the garden, leafy things, kale. It's really good for, if you don't like kale, this is really good for hiding the kale because it cooks down, and by the time you put cream in it, and oh, I do have one more secret ingredient to add in, which is my homemade Worcestershire sauce, and I put it in the shittiest container. So sorry about that. I actually have self-regret every time I go to use it because I should have put it in a tall jar. So I only want a little bit. It's like a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. But I was lazy and I put it in a different jar, which is okay. So Worcestershire sauce has got sweetness in it. It starts with plum jam. It's in my preserving book, and this is the whole part of this series, is to help promote the new preserving book called Fall in Love with Preserving. And so using preserved lemons is fantastic for this dish, but also Worcestershire sauce. I'm always using the things that I make in different dishes, and it's really nice to share with you guys what things I use it in, because if you don't know and you make the preserve and then you're stuck with preserves you don't know how to fully utilize, and that's sort of part of the joy for me. Right, so that's blipping away. Now we make the gratin topping. So this is my preserved lemons, and you will love the fact that this is just 2 ingredients. And when lemons are in abundance in your garden, it's great to make up a great big batch of these. You don't even have to sterilize the jar. So if you want to come in close here, I want you to see a good batch. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to be ready, and then when it's ready, it's really thick and sticky. The juice has gone from being liquidy to mixing with the salt and being thick. Now the part that we actually want to use here is the rind, not so much the flesh. So I'm actually going to pull off this rind part. It was all mushy. See how it's gone to mush? So I reckon I want 3 in here. We want the lemony tang. I use this in so many dishes. I just want that skin more than the flesh, although you can use the flesh. And then I'm going to give it, I know it's going to be chopped up in the food processor with my sourdough breadcrumbs, but I'm just going to give it a little tiny chop to help it along, because nobody wants a big gobful of this preserved lemon. It is strong and powerful in flavour. So we don't want the flesh, we want the preserved lemon diced. So we're going to put those 3/4 of chopped preserved lemon in. Now because the preserved lemon has a lot of salt in it, we don't need to add salt to this. So what I've done is I've saved some breadcrumbs. I was doing some sourdough experimenting last week, and I had half a loaf left over, and I'd baked a new loaf which obviously took the front position. So I chopped it up and blitzed these sourdough breadcrumbs and keep them in the freezer for, you know, crumbing schnitzels, or arancini is really good, things like that, or opportunities to make this. And so I'm just going to tip in. It's going to be, I feel like it's a wide container, so I'm going to need all of them. Thank you to that loaf of bread who double gave me its gifts. And now I'm going to pulse it. So that's still frozen from the freezer. I haven't defrosted them yet because life's too short for that. With the preserved lemon. I also like to add in summertime a tomato gratin version of this, where I actually add pesto to the things in here. So I'm actually going to add a good amount of olive oil because I want it to be like damp sand on the top. And I'm going to blitz it. Go. Let's see, did that get any olive oil treatment? Not enough. A bit more olive oil. It's nearly there. You could also add garlic to this, fresh herbs, anything that you like. Ooh, which makes me think that I really want to add some more spring onion flowers. Checking for bugs, no bugs. So this is a big head of spring onion flowers. Now this gives me not only green colour, but a beautiful mild oniony flavour, and that is going to go down so good. And it's also using up the whole plant. I usually save a few to serve at the end because it's gorgeous, so you just rip them off the yum. Okay, let's give that a little zip in. So we've got the lemony, salty, preserved lemons. We've got the zingy, spring onion flowers, and we've got the sourdough breadcrumbs, and we've got olive oil. If you've got bread that hasn't been crumbed yet, you can absolutely add it in chunks, like chop it up in rough chunks, put it in there at this stage and make your own breadcrumbs from scratch in this part of the process. Now all I'm going to do is bring it, if you want to come over here, this is the perfect amount of liquid. So it's just blipped away, a little bit juicy in the bottom, which is fantastic. And I had a little taste and it's spot on. All I'm going to do now, I'll turn it off. I'm going to tip the whole breadcrumbs on this, and then I'm going to chuck it in the oven. I mean, gently placed, of course. And press that down. So that is a gorgeous amount. Even unbaked, that looks amazing. Now I'm going to get it in here. The oven is hot, 200 degrees Celsius. I reckon 20 minutes, and that will be a delicious dish. Now I'm not going to lie, I would have that as a main without the meat. But to please the husband, I would add bacon to that at the beginning of the dish, but he's not here, so this is for me. So I'll make it how I like. But you could totally add some meat, chorizo, bacon, ham, or whatever at the start. That would be fine, and then it's a complete and utter dish if you're a meat lover. However, when the broccoli is so good and it's from the garden, I don't necessarily need the meat. So just giving you options. 20 minutes, we'll come back. Well, it's that time. It smells so good. I can't wait to show you this. It has been 22 minutes, so, well, I'm just saying, sucks to be me today. Look at that. That is a broccoli gratin with preserved lemon topping. I should probably say preserved lemon spring onion flour topping. That's like $2 extra a serve. Let's have a look. Oh my gosh, it smells amazing. It dishes up so much like a pro, you know? Well, this is home cooking at the end of the day. And you've got a really good combination. It's about half and half. I probably OD'd on the breadcrumbs, but okay. It's what I've got to live on, so that's what I use. Oh, corn would be nice in that. Cherry tomatoes would be so good. And you can see how hot that is. I'll give it a little taste. Try not to burn myself. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. It's not often I would chase the greens over other things, but cooking it like this and serving it with this crunchy breadcrumb topping is probably one of the most delicious meals I've eaten. It's not fancy, no. Is it from the garden? Yes. Is it filled with all the love that I have? Yes. And it's good for you. Don't tell anyone, but it's tasty. You have got to try this.